digital machine. Comtrya's the name, born of sci-fi lore. Control your system like never before. No more chaos, no more mess. Dot files align, put your mind at rest. Windows or Linux, BSD2. Comtrya's the answer for me and for you. Rust is the language forged in the fire. Cross-platform power taking you higher. No more config hell, no more despair. Comtrya's the answer to your every prayer. No more chaos, no more mess. Dot files align, put your mind at rest. Windows or Linux, BSD2. Comtrya's the answer for me and for you. The demo begins, watch the screen ignite. Todd's at the helm, bathed in digital light. Prepare to be amazed by the power you see. Comtrya's the future of config, believe me. No more chaos, no more mess. Dot files align, put your mind at rest. Windows or Linux, BSD2. Comtrya's the answer for me and for you. Comtrya, Comtrya, the future is here. Banish the darkness, cast out all fear.
Comtrya. Welcome back to the Rawkode Academy. I will explain that Comtrya reference very, very soon. But I want to welcome you back. Happy New Year. And this is the first stream of 2025 and a very special one for me because we're taking a look at a project I've been involved with for a long time now. And I get to be joined by someone I call a friend. Dun, ba, da, da. Hey, Todd, man. How's it going?
Not too bad yourself.
Yeah, all the better now. You know, it's the end of the day. I get to end in a fun way, which is, you know, playing with some pretty cool dev tools written in Rust. We might as well throw that out there pretty early. But before we talk more about Comtrya and what we're going to show today, do you want to just give a little bit of an introduction to the audience at home?
All right. Once again, Todd Martin. I'm one of the maintainers, I guess now, probably the primary maintainer, since I've kind of got the free time to look after it. Software engineer. During my day job, I sling C# for a smaller company, and then do Comtrya during my free time. I first came to it because of another friend, Michael Ream, out of Germany, who actually pointed me to Comtrya for a project we were looking at for BSD, and then ended up becoming a contributor, and then later on a maintainer.
All right. Even says there's a very annoying buzzing sound. I've turned off a space heater because it's pretty cold here. If that doesn't fix it, I will pop a cable and put it back in, which is the universal answer to all audio issues. So let me know in 30 seconds if that goes away. All right, thank you for the quick introduction. Why don't you tell us what Comtrya is, what it does, and what you were potentially looking to use it for?
So originally, I believe you started it as a .file manager tool and kind of the primary purpose, and it's kind of grown in scope since then to kind of include a lot more system management, general system management and configuration outside of just specifically managing .files. The future of it for me, as I see it going, is leaning more into the system configuration and management portion, and that's actually what I use it for. I've been using it a lot at work to stand up systems and have a configuration and ease deployment.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, that's, I don't know, the blessing or the curse of all projects. Eventually the scope creep happens and it does more and more. So yeah, we could talk about how the project is growing, but maybe you could take what you said and condense it into like a 30-second pitch for someone who's never used Comtrya before. Why should they install it, and what is that kind of default use case? What would they use it for?
Oh, that's a good one. I've never really thought about like a 30-second pitch. Um,
I mean, I put you on the spot so you talked while I was, fixing that cable, but apparently I'm back.
Yeah, I would say if I had to quickly give one off the top of my head without thinking too deeply into it, say .file system configuration management tool written in Rust with hopefully bringing some of the safety that Rust brings with tooling. Really.
Yeah, I'm going to pile on to that just because obviously I am very familiar with Comtrya. To anyone who doesn't know, I bootstrapped the project 5 years ago now. I think it was late 2019. Maybe it was 2020. I don't even know. But I was trying to scratch my own itch. I am a serial OS wiper. Like, I like to format my machines pretty much religiously every 30 days. Religiously might not be the right word. With a 30-day cadence. Because it promotes better habits with my machine. I don't like clutter. I like a fresh system. I don't want to lose anything really that's older than 30 days. So it makes sure that I back stuff up where I need to back it up. And also it's just fun to distro hop. I'm a Linux user. So, whether I'm running Nexus today, it might be Arch tomorrow. Next week, I might be testing Silverblue again. Like, I'm just insatiable when it comes to Linux, and I'm always jumping about and experimenting and kicking tires on things. And Comtrya was the reason I started a project was to, okay, how do I get from, oh shit, here's a fresh machine, to how do I get back to work without wasting an entire day? Because let's be honest, right? You get a new machine, it's at least 2 days of just messing about and installing stuff and testing out new extensions. I don't know, maybe I'm just a terrible procrastinator. I can't stop installing software, and Comtrya was trying to alleviate the burden of some of that, at least anyway. So. Okay, so how long have you been, you are the primary, and I think almost sole maintainer. There's a few external contributors that are obviously submitting patches and using the project, but you've been working on this. I don't even know, like a year now. Has it been that long? Has it been less? I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think it was about this time last year where you had brought up that you were getting busy with you going out and starting your own thing, and needing one of us to kind of, me or Stefan, who's also in chat, kind of picking up some more of the deeper maintainership duties. Actually, I think it was a little bit before that you added me to the crate, so that way I could start doing releases.
Yeah.
But last year, where I think you had mentioned that you were getting a little busy and you need one of us to kind of take it up more, and then it came up over the summer, and I kind of took it the rest of the way.
Yeah, and I think you've shipped quite a lot in that time. And don't worry to the people watching, going, just show me a terminal already. Like, we're going to get hands on very, very soon. But for me personally, having not, oh, that's a terrible thing. Not having the time to work on a project like Comtrya was really disappointing to me, because it solves an itch. It's a space that I like. But just seeing you deliver new features month after month over the last year has really kind of like, it's put a good smile on my face. I've been so happy to see the project moving on and changing. The TOML support, I think, was fantastic. And there's a whole bunch of other features, like, supporting Run Zero as a privilege elevator. It's just so cool to see all these things coming together. I've seen more activity on the GitHub across issues and pull requests. That little bit of momentum that you pushed into the project is now paying compound dividends as far as I'm concerned. I'm seeing more adoption, more interest, and more engagement. So I could not be happier with the position of Comtrya today, and I'm excited for us to share that screen, get a terminal open, and actually show people how they can get started and hopefully make their lives a little bit easier.
Yeah.
But before you know, you were an early adopter of Comtrya too. I mean, we're going back years now, right?
Yeah.
And one of the things that I think drew you to the project, and is still very prominent today, is that we always say Comtrya should be able to run anywhere. So maybe you can give a little bit of flavor and color on why that's a goal and the kind of platforms that we support.
Yeah, so guess start off with the platforms we support: Windows, Mac OS, Linux. There's a little bit of an asterisk to that. The only reason I would say that there's an asterisk to that is because of providers, and it's like there's hundreds of distros. If you look for, well, as viewers will see later, there's like a package install, so that way Comtrya can install packages. Um, we don't have every distro in there, but if we can add it, I'm more than happy to. I just need to know what the distro is so that way I can add it. But it's also impossible to add every possible distro in existence there. But for the most part, we can support any Linux. And then BSD, but not all BSDs right now. The main ones are FreeBSD and NetBSD. I think in theory, most everything should work except for maybe the package install on Dragonfly BSD, and that's just because FreeBSD and Dragonfly BSD, while they are two distinct projects, still share a lot of similarity. OpenBSD has kind of been the painful redheaded stepchild, unfortunately. Like, it's a platform I would love to support, but there are some hurdles that have to be overcome, and not just by me, to fully confidently support OpenBSD. We technically could today. The reason I don't is because, and why I don't do anything specifically, is because the Rust toolchain tends to fall behind often in OpenBSD. Last time I looked, there's one poor soul who's maintaining that for OpenBSD, and it's kind of like a constant game of catch up for them.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's still pretty wide support right off the bat. And the Linux thing is obviously tricky because you don't want to have to write Rust code to support a new package manager. And maybe this is something we could talk about at the end, but just thinking about that for all of 4 seconds there, like there's no reason Comtrya.yaml as a config file couldn't support specifying custom installers, because all you need is a command with some arguments for each of the different verbs. So maybe this is going to turn into let's file a pull request and add some cool functionality. But we could make that easier for people that want to experiment with different distros that don't have hard coded support. Definitely.
Mm-hmm. And I guess one thing to add with platform support, that's probably one of the more difficult aspects of the project. I do get people who hit me up on Discord and issues where they're like, hey, I want to do this really cool thing. And then the battle is always, how can I implement a feature that doesn't either break something on another operating system or cause massive issues? Really, the biggest one here being Windows, because a lot of things, especially since we do kind of shell out, work roughly the same between Mac OS, BSD, and Linux. Windows is kind of the different one here, where it's not everything is one-to-one. For instance, like a privilege escalation works totally different on the Unixy platforms. We can just sudo dos run 0, but Windows apparently will have sudo at some point. Last I heard that they're implementing their own sudo in Windows Preview at some point, so maybe that'll line up. But as far as I know, for most Windows systems, they don't have something that's equivalent.
Hell, I mean, if they roll out sudo support, you're looking at a future where you could run a Comtrya apply and not only provision the Windows host, but multiple WSL virtual machines at the same time with one set of manifests. And the variant supported manifest, as we're going to get to soon, I think is one of the superpowers of Comtrya, and one that I've definitely very poorly documented early doors and is getting better, but I don't even think we've tapped in to what that enables enough. I think there's more to be done there. However, we have been talking now for the best part of 15 minutes, and we haven't shown any code, and we've only said Rust once or twice, so maybe we should...
Before we jump in, do we want to just kind of show the documentation?
Yeah, we should, definitely. Yeah.
All right.
Let me pull up the screen share. All right, your screen is up. We see the Comtrya man. Oh, we haven't spoke about the name. So it's a total Stargate SG-1 reference, right? Like, I don't know if everybody has seen this episode, but it's one of my favorites. And I believe this man is called Hanlon. Yeah, Hanlon. And he says Comtrya, which is like their greeting and their welcome. So, yeah, it always makes me smile to see his face in the wee movie.
Yeah, and it also gives the project a nice name. I think a little bit unique too. I don't think you see
Yeah,
too.
you Google it and all you find is Stargate or our little Rust project. So.
Yeah. Kind of want to show the documentation first, just in case anybody want to follow along. And as David had said, improvements to the documentation. This has been rather recent in the last year, is moving it over to using MDBook. So adding more Rust toolchain in there. So there's another Rust reference for you. There's still some areas where it lacks, and I'm hoping to correct that over time. But as you can see, it's pretty easy to navigate. Got our introduction with a little rundown. I think most of this is from the older documentation, which you had on Gitbook. We got our supported systems, how we're going to install it, or the different ways to install it. A little bit about the CLI, the different commands that the CLI has to offer. But the real meat of this documentation is here underneath the manifest and the actions.
Nice. Yeah, I like this format much better than the Gitbook stuff. I mean, the Gitbook was great, and they support open source by providing their platform for free. But I think the entire deployment pipeline you put together for this is slick and quite nice to navigate.
Yeah, that's kind of why I like going with this option. So now the documentation is kept in repo alongside the code. I guess one complaint you could have is that every single time a pull request happens, even if the documentation doesn't change, technically the Git pipeline publishes a new version of the documentation. Okay, maybe it's publishing when it doesn't need to, but the bottom line is like if somebody were to do a feature, they could have the code for the feature and the code for the documentation all in the same pull request. And once it gets pulled in, it's on the main branch of Comtrya, and the documentation is live immediately.
Yeah, I think that mono-repo approach, I mean, it's the secret sauce for these projects, because the problem we had with my setup was people were sending really awesome pull requests, but the documentation was a different repository. It never got updated, and it was months, if not longer, behind. So yeah, this is cool. I like this. So Stefan is already in the chat, sticking me in it. So Stefan is correct. There was an example written by me, unfortunately, that every time you ran the tests or you ran against the examples directory, it would reboot your machine. And we thought this was a bug until we looked in the examples and realized that dumbass here had a special command run system control reboot.
Yeah, underneath.
I'm never doing that again.
Yeah, so I guess some background. So it was me coming into the Discord chat, kind of like, guys, I think we have a major problem. And I'm sitting here and I'm like, okay, because I didn't look at all the examples. I'm just running them and testing them for whatever I was doing at the time. And then I started going like, okay, I'm going to need to debug the kernel on this. So I'm sitting here doing all this. And then, Stefan comes up and he's like, it's probably because in one of our examples, we have a where clause where if you're on Linux, we just reboot the machine.
Not my finest moment, but oh well. Clearly, I've just been like, okay, what could a good where clause be that's Linux specific? And I've just went, oh yeah, systemd. And what an idiot.
Yeah, for anyone, I guess a little bit of information about that where clause and to give some information about it. Here in the Comtrya documentation, you see an example of it where we can have variants of a command. So we can kind of change the behavior of a certain action depending on like the operating system. And I think there's some other parameters, but probably the one that I've seen most commonly in other people's manifests is like, oh, if on Linux, do this. If on
the reboot's still there.
In the example, but I believe I did actually, because it was just a copy and paste. Let's see, go back, because I'm pretty sure I changed that out. I hope I did. Yeah, it was in here. I think I just changed it to no.
It's under variants, I think. Only variants.
Only variants. Yeah, and I changed it just to do an echo, just like the other ones. For some reason, we had echo for Mac OS,
Yeah,
but
last commit 2 years ago. Fuck, I can't even believe it was that long ago, but there you go.
yeah, there it is. Change the example for Linux so not to cause a system reboot.
Yeah, shit happens.
No kidding.
All right, should we focus on the installation process first? How can people get Comtrya on the command line?
All right, so we'll actually pop back up to this. I already have it installed in my VM, but and I did it through the curl way. So we have a couple of different ways. One, you could get the Rust toolchain and you can cargo install it because it is on crates.io and you can get it that way. And that'll also give you the main branch. We do have a shell script hosted at git.comtrya.dev that you can just pipe in a shell. With it, you can also pin a version number. So you can give an exact version number if you need an older version. We also have the precompiled binaries underneath our releases section on GitHub. You can pull it from there. And then we do have it available in some package managers. Stefan has been kind enough to package it for the AUR on Arch for a long time. Michael Reen, the guy I mentioned earlier who initially introduced me to Comtrya, packages it for Raven Porch, which is a smaller porch tree kind of style package management system that's supposed to be cross-platform. And then here recently, over the last few months, I added it to Homebrew.
Nice. Yeah, I think that homebrew approach for Mac people just makes it very, very simple. So.
Mhm.
All right, shall we write our first manifest?
Sure. Let me just make a directory and call it configuration.
So is there a reason you chose Debian, or is that just because you feel it's, semi-ubiquitous at this point?
Debian has always kind of been, I kind of consider my home distro. Like I've distro hopped a lot, but Debian is kind of always where I return to, especially as an adult, because things are just nice and stable there and rock solid. You
Too
don't
much
always
stable. I'm a bleeding edge.
Yeah, it's also what I've been using at work whenever I deploy Linux servers. Well, at first I tried Ubuntu, and then I realized why I don't deploy servers on Ubuntu. And then, so then I just went with Debian. And that's where I've mostly been using Comtrya, is on Debian servers at work right now.
Nice.
All right, so what kind of manifest?
Why don't we start with just basic, I'm trying not to come at it with too much bias because I know what Comtrya can do. But let's start with a command execution. Let's assume people just wanted like a YAML interface to some sort of bash script, which I would never encourage anyone to do. But command execution is probably one of the quicker and easiest ways to start doing stuff with Comtrya.
Yeah. Oh. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I always forget that. Even after, 15 years of using Linux. Let's call it main. All right, so
this is what we call a manifest, right?
Yep, this is a manifest YAML file, or it can be a TOML file. And then just kind of follow the example here. So every manifest, the basic manifest is essentially just a collection of actions. So we prefix it at the top with actions, and then we define each action within that. So we'll just start off with a simple command.run and make sure I have the documentation up, because I usually always make sure I have it up so I don't mess something up. Just do a simple echo, give it args.
Perfect.
All right. And as David said, I mean, to me, I kind of consider the command.run as like a catch-all. If there's anything that Comtrya doesn't have in action that it directly supports, there's usually always a way to get it done with the command.run in some fashion.
Yeah, it is, especially with the variant syntax. Like if you need to run something differently across Linux, BSD, Mac, Windows, whatever, it's easy to do that as a single action rather than, the thing I really hated and tried to avoid as much as possible was crazy ginger templating with inside YAML, because I think things just get messy and hacky pretty quick.
Mm-hmm.
But of course you can do ginger templating, but there's always the escape hatch.
Yep. So down here, I'm going to run it, essentially just invoking the Comtrya binary. The -d flag gives it the directory, so we're just saying the current working directory we're in is essentially the root for our manifest, and then apply. And then Comtrya also allows the ability to, you don't have to run all your manifests, you can selectively run them by giving this M switch. And, oh, did not get any output there.
You need to add -v.
Oh, yeah.
More V's.
Yeah.
No? Well, I don't think it's running.
Oh, yeah. I might want to make sure. I thought I checked this yesterday.
Uh-oh.
Yep. If not, I guess I could do this on my Mac too.
Well, what happens if you type Comtrya? What does it think it is, or which Comtrya? Do we have anything? Yeah.
Oh yeah, it does.
And run type space Comtrya before we cat it, just to be sure it's a text file.
Try is hashed. Huh.
Vim it? No. You nano Luddites.
Yeah, well, I primarily use Emacs, but Nano is just available. Oh yeah, there we go.
Yeah, that's a problem.
Yeah, that is a problem.
Now we get to show the installation.
Yeah.
Well, you quickly grab that command. I'll say Happy New Year to Nuno as well. Hey, nice to see you again.
Let's see. We may have an issue with the installation script. At least on ARM. I will say this is.
Is it an ARM? What happens if you type uname-a? Is it AMD or ARM? -a. It's ARM64.
Yeah, so it should
Yeah.
Pop this over so I can read it and type at the same time.
And you've put Deb instead of Dev.
Oh yeah.
That's because you're Debbie and mad. Pipe it through bash. That's the bash test condition.
All right.
Maybe there's a docs error there. Yeah, there we go. And it grabbed the ARM64 version. So, that worked fine. It's just the... Sweet.
There we go. There we go. All right. Yeah, I'm also hoping we don't have any issues with, was it GNU libc? That has been a rather recent issue that, at least on AMD 64, has kind of gotten solved. There we go. It's running out.
All right, that's Comtrya. I'll see you all later. I'm going home. Do you want to pump a -v onto that just so we can see the actual echo statement as well? So Comtrya tries to hide output when it doesn't need to show you it, but you can enable deeper verbosity, as you can see there.
Yep. So as we can see, we have the standard out. We have hello, just as defined in our manifest.
Nice. All right, let's push our luck. Let's install NeoVim.
All right. Let's just.
I just picked NeoVim because you said you like Emacs, and I feel like I have to make you do the devil's work.
Let's keep it here. Action package.install, and make sure it's the only thing about YAMLs. A lot of times, I also mess up the spacing. What's the package package name.
NeoVim.
Oh, double check that. Because I never install it. Yep, just NeoVim. Alright.
Can you just run?
Oh.
Yeah, it's your indentation.
Oh, yeah.
Can you try and run nvim just so we know it's not on the machine first as well?
Yeah.
So your second action needs to be one space less. I think that's 3 in. No, up 2 lines. I think there's 3 spaces at the start, right?
I believe so. 1, 2, 3. Or is it 2?
There's 2, but 2 lines up. The package install line, I think, is 3 spaces at the start.
3 spaces.
Yeah, at the start of that line.
Oh. Here?
Yeah. So go back one. Yeah, there we go.
Okay.
And then fix list, and then fix the.
Yeah. No YAML mode here to help me.
But your NeoVim is still 1, 2, 2.
Oh, yeah.
If you were using Vim, this wouldn't be an issue.
Or Emacs, because I should just have YAML mode.
Sweet.
Yep, and that'll take a minute. I do kind of want to eventually solve that. This seems to always be the first time it runs on Debian. It always does that where it complains about the add repository. It's like, well, we're not needing to do anything with adding a repository. So something I eventually want to dig down into. But,
Yeah, I was curious about that too. But we do have NeoVim, so that's a pretty solid start.
Clear that out. Let's see, what should we play around with?
Well, I think we've got 2 options. I mean, we can go into whatever you want, but right now we have a single manifest. Can you list the commands directory? What did you put in there?
Oh, what did I put in there? Just main.yaml and
Yeah. Main.yaml is a special name in Comtrya. It just means you can reference that manifest by the parent directory, which is commands in this case. So why don't we move the NeoVim package install to its own manifest and then show some sort of dependency management as well?
will do. So let's see. Directory.
Because one of the really cool things about Comtrya is that under the hood it's processing and parsing all of this YAML or TOML and building a directed graph. So you can actually have whatever dependency structure you need across multiple manifests, and it handles it really well. Is type in YAML why you added TOML support?
No, somebody had asked for it. I'm kind of like you. I'm not too big of a fan of TOML, but it was kind of easy enough, and somebody had asked for it, and I was like, oh, that's also what at the time it was something different for me to do. Like I think at that point, most everything I had done was just in the actions themselves. And I haven't really messed with anything as far as like how we walk through the manifest or any of the other parts of Comtrya. I was kind of just in the actions. Hadn't messed with atoms yet, really. So I was like, well, this will get me into a different part of it, and I can kind of look at it. And because Serde makes it so easy to support multiple different file formats, I was like, it's not going to be hard. Get me into a part that I'm not used to. So
that nvim should be neovim before you save it.
All right, saved.
Okay, so now we've got, is that software main and commands main?
Yep. Or
okay.
I did it as nvim, but I can change that if we want.
No. I think that works just fine. So why don't we update commands to depend on software nvim? Remember, if you're watching and you have any questions, or you want some examples about some of the things Comtrya can do, now would be a good time to throw them into the chat so that we can, hopefully show you something interesting.
And dependencies. Ooh, I haven't had to do too much with the dependencies yet. Would it be
software.nvim? Yeah. I mean, I can talk about, because I wrote this code, so I can talk about how this works and where the inspiration came from as well. Because some people may hate this syntax, but it's actually something I stole from SaltStack. So.
Should we uninstall NeoVim?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right.
Okay, so now we're just going to run Comtrya apply commands, right?
Yeah.
All right.
Then there we go. Yep.
Yeah.
See where we did the software.nvim action first. I actually did not know was a dot. I guess if you could talk a little bit about that. I would have assumed a /. I haven't had to do too much with dependencies yet. I need to get better at using those.
No, I need to get better at documenting shit. However, yeah, so there's a couple of things that are actually happening here with Comtrya. The first one being, the manifest name is the file name, except for the special case where it's main.yaml, and then it uses the parent directory. This was also stolen. I was a huge SaltStack fan. I used SaltStack for a decade, and it's what I used for my own dot files until I got fed up of it. SaltStack isn't really meant to run on localhost. Well, it can, so it doesn't do status reporting and progress reports and stuff like that, things I wanted to fix with Comtrya. So I stole some of the things I liked, which is the naming convention and the dependency syntax. So, Comtrya supports dependency resolution from the current working directory where you run Comtrya, or from wherever it finds a Comtrya.yaml if you have one. So you can always do absolute with software dot and then, as many dot directories as you need to get to your manifest name. But you can also do local dependencies, which are dot nvim if you were doing it from in the software, which again is lifted straight from SaltStack. So it was supposed to be familiar and just the syntax that I liked. The manifest loader loads all of the manifests and scans for dependencies. It builds that DAG that I kind of mentioned earlier, and then they get executed in reverse order, making sure dependencies are always satisfied before anything else. You can't do action dependencies. Manifests always run top to bottom in a linear serial order, and that's going to make asynchronous runtimes in the future much easier without the DAG getting too convoluted. Something that SaltStack allows is every single task within any state file can have a dependency or reference to other ones, and then you never actually know the execution order. And I wanted some degree of comprehension from just reading the manifest without going too deep. So that's why some of these trade-offs were made. And hopefully it just makes it a bit easier to work with as well. We could also run Comtrya without the -d and without the -m. So do you want to just run Comtrya apply? Because the -d is the default out of the box, and you don't need -m at all. It just run everything.
Yeah.
Oh, I've lied to you. What's in this directory? Do ls?
Just the two folders.
Oh, that should work. All right, I guess -d is required. I'm not sure when that changed. So just do Comtrya -d dot apply and see if that fixes it. Oh, you need the path, yeah. Okay, yeah. So that runs everything with dependency resolution. So, yeah. There's a really cool PR, and we'll talk about this at the end. I don't want to get too deep now, but I don't think any of us are particularly happy with the output of Comtrya, and we'd love to see this
Yeah.
made a lot better. So.
Yeah, there's for debugging, it's not too bad, and how we have the output has come in handy lots of times, but it's not always the best, especially like this portion of it. We do have somebody who's working on progress bars. I think we also do have some places in Comtrya where we probably aren't tracing like we should. Like sometimes we have something that's tracing as a warning when it should be tracing as information. I've kind of slowly been going through and clean up what I thought what bucket it better fit in. Um, that's probably another little bit of a sore with the output of Comtrya is that we do have some things that I don't think get traced correctly.
Yeah. Well, come on. Let's cut some slack. It's a 0.9 project. So.
Oh yeah. Well, and also some of it is just kind of difficult. Like there's been some that I've changed where I'm like, I kind of could go either way, but for some reason my gut's just telling me info is correct or warn is correct, and there have been a lot of those.
Yeah. Okay. Let's show a couple more examples. I've got loads in my head. I don't know if there's something you want to show, but I can keep throwing things at you if you want.
One thing real quick, probably won't necessarily be able to run in action, but one mention since we were messing with the package.install is that I mentioned the term earlier was provider. Comtrya does have this concept of like providers, and it's not just in the package install. We use it in a few other places. But the idea with the in the context of package install is sometimes you have a platform that can support multiple package managers, or maybe you run Arch, but for some reason you want to use apt. Like that is a possible thing to do. You can override the default selection of the package manager with the provider. Actually, really two really good examples of why this might be necessary. Actually, a few. Um, for Mac OS, there's two primary package managers that people use. There's Brew and MacPorts. Brew is what Comtrya defaults to, but if you don't like Brew and you like MacPorts, which I've used, I've kind of gotten more into Brew, but I used to use MacPorts a lot. You can specify specifically to use MacPorts over Brew. As you can see, this has been new and was actually contributed by a coworker of mine. Support for Snapcraft, so being able to use Snap packages. So if you're on like Ubuntu or a Linux system that has Snap and you would rather your package come from Snap than from apt, that's possible. And then Packagin here from the NetBSD team is a cross-platform, so you can use Packagin on Linux, you can use it on Mac OS, you can use it on FreeBSD, NetBSD. If you want to use Packagin on Mac OS, your Comtrya will allow you to do that. You just have to specify the provider, and you gotta bootstrap Packagin on your own on Mac OS.
Nice. I had no idea someone added Snap, but now the fury is inside me where I have to go add Flatpak and make it better. So.
Yeah, that was kind of because he asked me what was the next thing he should work on, because he's a coworker who wanted to get into open source. So I'm like, well, I've got a Rust, I kind of maintain a Rust project and I can help you. So he did Snap and he did a couple of other things. I could probably stick him on Flatpak.
Okay, so let's show off something cool, and we can integrate it to the providers, or we could do something slightly different. But let's modify our nvim manifest.
All right.
Because I think the conditional syntax and the variants are really, I don't think this is nice in other tools like this. So let's assume, right, so I'm going to take us on a weird tour here, and this doesn't make a lot of sense if you're familiar with Comtrya, so Todd's going to be like, why are we doing it this way?
Right.
But we have where conditions on the manifest and on actions, right? So let's add a where condition to this manifest that says only run on Linux, which we just do at the top.
Where, if I remember, what is it?
You just do os.name equals Linux, I think. But we can show people how to list that as well. So if you run Comtrya contexts on the command line, it'll list all of these variables that we have access to.
Oh yeah, and I guess while we're showing this, something else that was added, and I believe it's now available in version 0.9.1, we'll give you this list, but I don't think we ever necessarily showed you the values. I think actually Stefan implemented part of this, and I think I just surfaced it up through a command line option. Maybe I may also
Oh,
be
nice.
misremembering, but you should be able to do show values. So if you're confused, you can see what the values are.
Yeah, and we have os name.linux. So
Mm-hmm.
just because Stefan is watching, can we pull up one of the examples, which I think is absolutely ridiculous, but so much fun at the same time?
Yeah.
It's the DNS variables. I think it's under. There's no context. So it must be under where, maybe?
Wait, if they're very.
No, I don't know. Search a repository for text, txt. Maybe Stefan will know what it is. It's just so silly but fun.
Oh, that's searching.
You only just a code search rather than a file search.
Oh yeah. Oh, shoot, I don't do that too often
It's
here.
at the top. // No, but you have to be outside that text box. Sorry.
Oh.
I'm setting you up for failure now. Yeah, just click anywhere and then do / and then type txt.
Is this? Yeah, variable include DNS.
Well, that's the code.
Yeah, that's code.
But yeah, if you just do a proper yeah, that first one there, and the examples directory. txt. Yeah. And then add txt to the search. Sorry, I'm detracting now from anything useful, but this is fun. Yeah, just type txt and hit return. There you go.
Oh yeah, and the Comtrya.yaml.
Yeah, so that actually does a DNS text record lookup for his domain. And so like it was one of those use cases where if you want to run Comtrya in the cloud, you could actually access the the metadata on the AWS EC2 instance or DNS text records to do some sort of IP address resolution or even just pass down properties and the machines could pick them up. And it just opened up some really weird use cases that we've never pushed or explored, but I just think it's just good fun. So yeah. I don't even know if his text records still exist, but it was definitely fun when he did it. Sorry. Anyway, I took us away from what we're actually going to show there. So let's jump back to our terminal.
I've seen that loads of times, and I've always wondered. I'm like, what's going on there?
Yeah, the idea being that when you can include remote variables. This is like salt pillars for anyone that is familiar with SaltStack. And we support DNS. It could be EC2 metadata. It could be Postgres lookups. Like we can make anything supported. But we've just not had the requests. And I think, again, it comes down to documentation. Like, unless you know to go and find that piece of code or look at that example, you wouldn't even know you could do DNS lookups within the variable context. So
Yeah.
Well,
also with
Stefan's
that,
like, yeah, of course they exist. So.
And so I guess seeing that, you notice it says Comtrya.yaml for people watching this. This is almost kind of like a configuration file for Comtrya. There has been kind of a cool change here. Before, I believe it's always ever looked at like the root of your manifest directory. And I think there's maybe like one other place, but you could never specify like a specific, like you could have a config file just in a random place. Now, as of version 0.9.1, there should be a command line option that allow you to say, hey, use this specific one. Don't know if anybody will use it, but it's there if somebody needs it for some reason. If they have multiple different manifests, or maybe multiple different directories for some reason, but they want to have like a shared config.
Nice. All right, where were we? Oh yeah, OS name Linux. Let's change it to macOS and then just show that it doesn't run first and foremost, and that'll make sure we haven't made any mistakes.
Oh, I'm showing macOS is all lowercase.
It is all lower. Everything gets lowercase in the context, I believe.
So apply. So here we see where condition failed.
Yeah, so now if we change it to Linux, it should run again. What have we got wrong in that? Oh, wrap Linux in quotes.
Oh, yeah.
It's looking for a variable called Linux, which is probably an empty string. There we go. Okay, one more change for me, please. Let's add to say a similar where condition to our first action. So we're saying always run this manifest for Linux machines, but now let's only run it on Arch.
All right.
And that's os.family.
Oh, we probably do need some documentation.
It's in variants, I think.
Oh, yeah. Variants.
I mean, variants and where conditions, I mean, we'll need to get into that too, but you can see the example at the bottom there.
Yeah.
For a standard where condition without variants, and then I'll talk about variants as well.
All right. So.
Oh, no, you don't need variants for this example.
Where, and then was it just os.fam?
Yeah, os.family.
Search.
Or maybe, I can't remember. We might have to check the context. Okay. I mean, this shouldn't run now, so let's run it.
Nothing to be done. Reconciling action.
Ah, yeah, we haven't spoke about the plan stage. You want to talk about that?
The plan stage, if I recall correctly, essentially the plan stage will take a look at the action and will determine if it can run or not, if I recall correctly. I'm usually too deep into the code, not too much into the interfaces.
Yeah, we'll pop open the manifest and we can talk about it. So. Yeah, so the manifest where clauses are executed before any actions are parsed. So that says, do we even need to understand these actions? And the actions themselves, actions within Comtrya have something called a plan, which tries to determine if any of the steps need to run. Actions are actually composites of atoms. I don't know if we need to get into that, but it's a cool subsystem for building your own actions. But this where condition actually never has to be executed because the package is already installed and this action doesn't need to go any deeper. So it just says NeoVim exists. So we need to remove NeoVim again and then run it and hopefully see that the action is skipped. Sorry, I'm pushing you into parts like Comtrya you've not explored before now. I feel bad.
That's all good. Yeah, it's mostly just a lot of like the where conditions and variants. I haven't delved too much into it, although I really should because the documentation probably does need to be updated. Or
oh yeah, for sure.
Like I think there's things like the variables we don't really have documented. So removed it. Nothing to be done.
Maybe nothing is what to be done. I mean, did we remove NeoVim? We did.
Yep.
I wonder if it's just because the where condition failed and it just says nothing to be done. Maybe we don't actually specifically call out the conditional, which is an improvement I think we should make if that's correct. Mm-hmm. Let's run Comtrya context, make sure that value is what we expect, and then we can update it so that it does run.
Let's see.
You don't need show values. Your new feature. Oh, family is unique. Oh, distribution.
Oh yeah, distribution. Yeah, that. I wonder where we pull the family from. So I've also done some work on one of our dependencies, the OS info.
Oh, nice.
I don't know if that comes from OS info or not. I don't think so, because I tried to introduce a concept of families to solve a problem at Comtrya, but it's been an open pull request for like 2 years with 30 comments on it.
Yeah, we should probably just fork that crate at some point.
Yeah, the problem I was trying to solve there was because OS info, it also gets used by Cargo itself. I wanted to double check the name of that because I started talking and forgot it. Distribution, okay. I want to make sure it wasn't short for distro. So some of the problem is with so in the package provider, it's how we determine which package provider we use is just this long match statement that will, the more distributions we add, the longer and longer it'll be. And I was hoping to kind of shortcut it with kind of like this idea of like operating system families, right? So we know like it's a pretty good heuristic to say any Debian or Debian based distribution has apt. Any Arch and Arch based distribution has the ability to use Paru or Yay or Pacman. But that kind of came a little bit of a debate and it ended up not going anywhere. But
Set it to Debian, capital D, because we want it to run this time.
Debian.
No, that's good. Installed. Yep. All right, I'll say one more thing about that manifest, and then you can pick something else to show. But the reason variants exist is, if we wanted to change the name of this package from Debian and Arch, say Arch is nvim or whatever, having two actions to me felt dirty. That's how it exists in other systems. And while we can use Jinja, and hopefully we never show anyone how to do Jinja and Comtrya, is that I also don't want that templating approach to be how we do it. It should be more declarative. So the variant syntax is, okay, we have multiple variants of this single action where you can have the where guard clauses, and then you can override any property on the action with the variant syntax, which is also very, you don't need to type it, we can just show it on the docs. I think the example there is pretty good.
All right. Let's see. The users ones might be pretty cool.
Yep.
Directory users. So something I believe it was new early last year, maybe, was the ability to have Comtrya create users. Now, granted, I do not believe this works on Windows, so we do have some functionality where it should work on most Unix systems, but on Windows it probably doesn't work. I believe we have this surrounded with compilation flags, but if you need to set up specific users and groups too, and you need to add users to groups, Comtrya has manifest actions to do that. One caveat about this is it's not tested necessarily on everything. So if you come across like a Linux distribution where adding users is slightly different, or BSD or Mac OS, just drop an issue and I can investigate it and fix it. Because some distros do it a little differently. But yeah, let's see. So let's start off by creating a group. So we'll do group.add, and we'll just call let's give it a group name of test. So Comtrya.
You've got a typo.
Oh, yeah. Oh.
It's a universal law of people watching you type.
No kidding. It happens at work too. Like whenever I'm pair programming at work, it's like I can type just fine when I'm at my desk alone. As soon as I'm pair programming and I'm on the keyboard, it's like I can't type anything.
Yeah.
I believe when I developed this, I was using Debian, so this should work. That actually go through. Let me list it.
What's your file code and users?
Oh yeah, that might be it. It's user,
Yeah.
probably why.
So you need to do users dot user. There you go.
All right. So, I need to look this up. It's been a while.
You can type ID in the group name, or you can just cat/etc/group.
So there we have our test group down there. Let's see, and then nano action user dot add the parameters for this guy. Oh, get my focus back. Full name, test user, /home/test, username, test, and then give it a shell, sh, and we should also be able to user.group, add it in the follow-up action, username, test, group, test. So we've already created our group, so Comtrya should just kind of skip over that because that's already done. Then we'll add a test user, set its values, and then we should be able to add it to the user group. Oh, and we did have a failure. All right.
Did we? Oh.
So I wonder. Okay, this might be something I need to go back to fix. I think I made. I think it has something to do maybe with the summarize.
Well, I mean, the summarize is just saying it doesn't know how to describe what action it performed. Add a few dash V's onto that, and we'll probably see an error message. Okay, so it's your user mod command doesn't exist.
Oh, okay.
Is user mod installed? Because on Debian, I don't think that's a default.
Yeah.
Oh, it is.
Yeah, it is. It might
scroll up again. Or just run it. Yeah. Oh, user add. Yeah, Debian is add user instead of user. Oh no, invalid shell. See, with Linux, it's weird because you get user add or add user depending on the distro.
Yeah.
But that's actually complaining about invalid shell sh.
I wonder if I just come in here and fully path it.
Why do you need to provide the shell for user add?
You actually might not need to. I need to double.
Oh, this is for the user shell, right? Not an application shell. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, and this may also be something of I implemented. I think the first system I did was FreeBSD. So a lot of this might have come from FreeBSD, where whenever you add a user and it walks you through like its user add script or the options, you do have to specify a shell. And that kind of comes back to some of the difficulty with supporting multiple platforms. Is my general philosophy is try to think of like a base set of functionality that goes across all the platforms. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah.
All right, so it still failed. So it might just be something I need to dig deeper in.
Test exists.
Yeah. If you want to add a user to this group, use G. So it might just be the way it's getting assembled on Debian.
Yeah, maybe the plan step doesn't check the group properly.
Possibly. I wonder if I take the group out. Nope, still fails.
User add group test exists. If you want to add this user to the group, use dash.
Yeah.
We can fix that later.
Yeah.
Although I've got a feature request for you now based on that manifest.
All right.
We'll pop it back open again. Something that would be really cool you know how we defined a user.group, where that was a test group, and then we defined a user username, but then we have the user group action, which actually consumes both of those properties. Instead of duplicating the test username and the test group name, it'd be good if we could reference other actions within the manifest and pull out outputs. That'd be a really cool feature.
Oh yeah, it would. Huh.
There's something to get you thinking about, as you ease into 2025.
Oh yeah. Just as another mention, because earlier we had talked about providers, users also use kind of like, and groups use the same like provider syntax, and that actually may be some of the problem we're facing here, is because I believe I originally wrote this on Debian, but it might have been Arch. I might have been running Arch when I did. But we just have one overarching Linux user provider, which probably is not what we should do. We should probably find a way to better separate that, because some are user add, some are user mod. Try to use whatever is available on the base system, which is another thing where it comes into the struggle of supporting multiple platforms, is also wanting to make sure whatever we use is available on the base system on a fresh installation, because of like David's use case of he refreshes a laptop.
All right, so we've showed packages, users, groups, variants, where clauses. I mean, we're still only scratching the surface of things Comtrya can do. You can do pull and Git repositories, binaries from GitHub. I think maybe we could just go over the documentation for files, and then we can have a bit of chat about the future of Comtrya.
Yeah, I think we should also talk about the Git too, the Git integration, especially since that has kind of changed. But we'll start with files and directories. So this is actually missing some documentation that I just discovered about a week or two ago, and I've opened up an issue. We do have more stuff available for directories that is implemented. It's just not in the documentation. But we have these file and directory options. We can do file copies, download, link, remove. Unarchive is a rather newer one. We have some of the same functionality with directories. We can create a directory, we can copy, we can delete. And we have the listing. One special thing, and David will correct me if I'm wrong here, with these file actions, you need to have like a files directory co-located with your manifest.
I hate it so much, but yes, that is a current restriction or constraint, and the reason is that Comtrya will find every TOML and YAML file nested in any arbitrary depth of directories, to the point where if you have YAML configurations for any other project, those couldn't be parsed and would fail the invocation. So instead, we block them out or wrap them in a files directory. I would love to see that constraint lifted. It's just, how do we do it in a way that a Comtrya manifest can be identified differently from any other random configuration, because we do not have any discriminators that say, hey, I'm a Comtrya manifest in that YAML, which maybe we have to admit defeat at some point and make a breaking change, but who knows? I'd love to see that not be a constraint, but it is for now.
Yeah, I see where it's a pain for people. Me, personally, I haven't minded it. I've actually kind of liked it where I can separate, like using it at work. One of the big things I've really used that files directory for is Stefan ditch YAML. Like I'll have like a Postgres configuration file, or I'll have a NetPlan or one of those files. And it's just nice to be able to say, okay, where are those files? Oh, they're in the files directory with where the manifests are. For me, I kind of do like it from an organizational aspect, but I see where some of the pain is. A nice separation between what are Comtrya files and what are not.
Yeah. It's not an immediate problem, and not something I think we have to solve until we get more complaints. I think there's only been 1 or 2 complaints about that directory needing to be a thing. But one other thing I'll call out about files, because it's pertinent to some discussions that we've been having recently. With Comtrya, we do a lot of command execution, which we do because it's very easy to, elevate privileges. All file actions across Windows, Mac, Linux, and BSD are actual syscalls. which means we can't elevate privileges, which means eventually you're going to want to put something that doesn't live in your home directory, and Comtrya can't handle that unless you run it as root. I mean, I don't know what the solution is there. I know we've talked about, I suggested maybe going down the polkit route. You know, we could just cheat and set UID1 the binary, which of course I would never encourage anyone to do.
Yeah.
But I think there needs to, like, if we're going to say Comtrya has progressed beyond dot files to do actual system administration, at some point we need to.
I mean, I would say the simple dumb solution would be we shell out. I mean,
Yeah.
that's kind of like the fallback because we can always elevate whenever we shell out, which we did not show, but we can also show that too real quick. What we mean by elevate is here in command.run, as an example, we have this like privileged key that you can put, and it's a true or false. It's defaulted to false, but if you set it to true, we'll essentially throw sudo or dos or run 0 in front of your command. So that way we can elevate privileges as that command runs. The polkit one is interesting. The only thing I think that's kind of difficult is like polkit is not, in my understanding, is not available in the base of macOS. So like if you were to go back to macOS and try to stand up a machine from scratch from a fresh install purely using Comtrya, you'll probably hit issues. Which means to get around that, you would have to bootstrap homebrew yourself. That's one thing we didn't mention. Some of the package managers, Comtrya has the logic to be able to bootstrap itself. So from a clean system, whenever you do a package install, Comtrya will run a bootstrap process for homebrew on macOS, and it should automatically configure homebrew for you, so you don't need to do that yourself. In the case of polkit, you kind of lose that functionality to bootstrap homebrew yourself potentially and pull polkit, because polkit is available in homebrew or some variant of polkit.
Tricky, right? There's never an easy solution when we start getting into these, expanding the scope use cases. But they are things I think, you and other people that use Comtrya would like to see solved. But I don't think there's a great answer.
No.
Other than running it, you just sudo it, just sudo Comtrya, right?
Yeah, we just shell out.
Or we shell it, yeah. I mean, maybe that is the answer. I mean, the files are the only time we ever use syscalls. Maybe we should just rip it out.
Yeah, just get rid of the atoms and just have it really run the command.execute underneath the hood. And I mean, the good thing is right, for all these actions, there is an equivalent command line program that does it. So,
True. I need to stop.
Go ahead. All right. So the file and archive, that one is rather new. This one should allow you to be able to pull like a tar.gz, and we can uncompress it for you. And I believe we can also run it as a finalizer on file.download. I think it might be one of the few like legitimate finalizers we have, which is something we haven't talked about, initializers and finalizers, but but we should definitely make more use of them.
Yeah, they were. I don't know if it was me getting into over engineering land, which I am guilty of a lot. Obviously, Comtrya it's engineered in a way that it's supposed to be easy to add actions and atoms, and they're separate things. And initializer and finalizers were a way to modify the execution chain of the DAG that we never really built too much into, but maybe in the future, right? I mean, if people don't know they exist, that's okay. It's only when you come to build actions that those really become more important. So we'll see. But what I'm hoping, we can talk about Git as well. What I'm hoping that people see from all of this stuff is that Comtrya is a pretty powerful tool, and I'd love to see more people helping you out and adding actions and opening issues and stuff like that. So, but before we dive into that more, why don't you go through the Git stuff?
All right. So I guess the Git stuff needs a little bit of history. We used to use Git to RS and Git sync, but it was always a problem child. A lot of it was because of OpenSSL. We would have people opening up issues like every few months of saying, hey, I pulled down the project and I can't compile Comtrya. Something's broken, something's wrong. And it's like, do you have the OpenSSL development dependencies installed on your machine? No, they don't. And and I've tried to solve it a couple of different ways, but ultimately, earlier this year, I came down to it's a constant headache for us. Let's just rip out Git completely. And there are some potential avenues, but at least at the time when I was looking at it, it's like they're not ready yet. The big one was another one we would also get issues opened up for was how come you guys aren't using anything? How come you guys aren't using Rust TLS? Well, OpenSSL is a transitive dependency. Like Comtrya doesn't directly pull it in. It's because of the Git stuff for the most part is why we have OpenSSL. And so we would mention that, and then they would say, all right, well, why don't you use Git Oxide or Geeks, which are really kind of two of the same. One is like a library, one is the front end, which is, for those who don't know, it's like a re-implementation of Git and Rust. And I've been tracking that for close to like 2 years. I think David has too. It's like for 2 years, it was just never fully there, right? It's kind of like one of those things where, from my perspective, the Git Oxide project got 85% of the way there, but it's that last 15% that's like where the real hard work comes in. It's like my manager says from his days working at Microsoft. It's was it the first 90% is 10% of your time, and the last 10% is the 90% of your time, whenever it comes to software development.
Yep.
But over this last fall, I went ahead and gave it a shot again with Geeks and Git Oxide, and I was able to kind of bring back some of the Git functionality that we had. I don't think it's complete one-to-one, but at least we have something. The functionality here, you see we have actions where you can have an action to call a Git clone. This one probably isn't the biggest use of the Git functionality. The biggest one is, this may break on my machine, but I do have a little bit of an example. Try the github.com/mytc files. Apply. Let me take a look at that because this was just an experimentation of mine. Find something to apply.
Yeah, I love that functionality. I was sad to see it be taken out, but I'm glad it's back because, if you want to run Comtrya as a cloud config script on a cloud server, you don't really need to do anything except just tell it to run, and it can pull all the manifests down, which is nice.
Yep. Point it to a GitHub registry or a GitHub repository that has it. Well, and not just the cloud, but also I imagine for your personal machines, right? Like you get Git and then you just point it and bam, you have everything.
Nice.
And it'll pull it if you have it as a public repository. I haven't dived too much into what we had with Git Sync, but I think Git Sync handled some stuff with credentialing. So
I handled, using credentials. I handled pulling branches, revisions, tags, a whole bunch of interesting stuff. But
yeah, so we don't have that yet. I do plan to get back there. Right now, it's just a dumb clone on a public repo is pretty much what you're limited to. But at least we have it back, and we don't have the issues with OpenSSL.
All right, I need to ask a question now because it's staring me in the face and it's annoying me. But can you go back to the documentation?
All right.
You've got pre-087 and then post, but the only thing that's different is you changed repository to repo URL. Why was that?
To be honest, I think it was just as I was bringing back the actions, it was just how I wrote it. I could change it back, but it was like, I also kind of, at least at the time when I was writing it, it was just something I just did at the moment. I wasn't really looking at how the prior struct was written. Also kind of wanted a clear differentiator between the two. And also, I think one of the things I wanted to kind of capture was, to me, with how it was before, it kind of seemed a little bit GitHub centric. And I think it actually did, like, if you didn't provide a full URL, it would just automatically assume GitHub. And it's like, I kind of want it to seem a little bit more universal if you have like a public repository on like Bitbucket or GitLab or something. And to me,
Makes
I thought
sense.
that just kind of defined it a little bit better.
Nice.
And yeah, we don't append GitHub. So if you do this, it'll probably fail because it won't know to default to GitHub. So you do have to give it the fully qualified like URL.
All right, makes sense. All right. I think we've covered most of the use cases. I'm going to pop us back to Biggie face mode, and we can talk about what comes next. So, Comtrya is cool. Do lots of things with it. Make your life a little bit easier. You have the choice of YAML, TOML, hopefully more options. But why don't you tell us, like, what do you think you will be adding or changing at Comtrya over the next 3, 9, 12 months? And what issues do you see people talking about? What changes are people looking for?
All right, so I haven't really thought far enough out for 12 months. I guess I should probably talk about kind of how I imagine releases going forward first. So in the past with Comtrya, we've kind of always just released whenever we felt it was kind of like the Linux kernel, right? You know, Linus Torvalds is famous for like version numbers don't necessarily mean anything special. He just cuts a new release whenever he feels it's ready, right? There's no like strict standards, and that's kind of how Comtrya was for a while. A lot of that was because we would get busy and we'd go months without doing anything, and then we would come back, implement a lot of stuff. And that can kind of present some problems where if it doesn't look like work is getting done, the project can look dead, even though maybe it's not. So with having kind of taken over more responsibility for the project, my goal is to try to do a release every quarter. So I just recently, last week or the week before, did the 0.9.1 release, and I'm looking for the next release to be sometime in spring. I'm trying to line it up with the seasons. Reason for that is one, it gives me a goal. If it's open ended, I'll just go months and months without thinking about it. Whereas if I kind of set a deadline, at least I set a deadline for myself, then I have something to work towards. And right now I'm only kind of thinking one release ahead. But the big things that I'm hoping to get done within the next release is I have quite a few issues here, and I've been organizing them by milestones. And for anybody who wants to contribute, you don't need to worry about that. That's just me organizing what I think I can get done in a 3-month period or hope to get done. And some of it'll change because I haven't groomed it. I may have added too much stuff. But the big one is service management, which has been a topic we have talked about a lot on and off over the last 2 years. For those who aren't familiar, that would be like on Linux, your system CTL with systemd. Mac OS, I'll probably do Brew because Brew does do service management, but could do LaunchD directly. But I don't see that being too done too often. And then, of course, for the BSDs, that's probably going to be the biggest one I plan to do during the next release. But we do have some cool issues that I'm hoping we can also get to. Also, there's a feature for downloading binaries directly from GitHub that I think could be useful. There was an interesting one brought up of having Comtrya be able to kind of modify and manage cron tab.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
That would be a pretty cool one to do. One I do hope to do. So as we talked about providers earlier, if you have different package install actions, you would have to specify that provider in each one. I would like to do something with the configuration file to kind of do like an overarching context. So that way you could have a configuration file and say, hey, whenever you see package install, let's go ahead and override it so we don't have to do it in every single action. Kind of like what we do with privilege escalation, which we could go back and talk on that if you want to, because that's kind of interesting. Another one that I would like, I don't know if I'll get it done this next release, but I'd like to do some more research. It's an old issue that we've had for a while, and we have talked about it a little bit, was adding an update flag to package install. And I think a lot of that boils down to the name is somewhat incorrect. It's not so much update, it seemed more like version pinning. But that's an interesting one because this kind of goes back to kind of like not all platforms support everything. Same thing with like package providers, right? Not every package manager necessarily has version pinning.
Yeah, I mean, there's been a lot of requests like that over the years, but in my head, it doesn't. I could be convinced, but it doesn't make sense because I always feel like once you've run Comtrya, you know, apt, Pacman, Paru, you know, ports, whatever, they already then, it's their job to maintain that state going forward. Comtrya is stateless. So it's like, why would you not just run apt upgrade?
Yeah. Yeah, and I can kind of see that too. Or then, like, yeah, like using Debian, set Postgres servers on Debian. They do offer different versions of, let's say, like Postgres, right? And you do that by is like PostgreSQL tag 15, and that's Postgres 15. But if you want 16, you can do tag 16. But if you just do PostgreSQL, that'll pull 16. There's tag 14 for version 14. So some package managers, you can just control it by the package name functionally. Yeah. So, like I said, I don't know if there'll be any movement on that one, but something I like to do a little bit more research to see if there is something. Like I know with Homebrew having recently put Comtrya in Brew, Brew formula and core can also build master. So instead of being tagged to a version, it could also do like the head. That might be kind of useful, especially for something like Comtrya where 3 months between releases, right? There's stuff that may be in the documentation or stuff that's available in the main branch that just isn't released yet into a formal release.
Nice. All right. I mean, we're now at an hour and a half, so I think it's about time to wrap this up. But being that Comtrya is such a cool project and there is a bit of momentum now, I'd love for us to be able to get back together in 3 months and just go over the new features and again talk about what's coming next so people can stay up to date with things. But before I'd just say thanks for taking a good chunk of time out your day to sit here and chat Comtrya with me. It's been a whole lot of fun.
Oh, it's no problem. Yeah, it's been fun. I also got to learn a couple new things. It's always good. I said one thing that's been really good is that while you've been busy, David and Stefan still are pretty instrumental because there's parts that I still have questions about. Like I've been all over the code base now, but there's still things I don't quite understand. And the fact that you and Stefan are kind of always there whenever I have a question and being able to answer it and help point me in the right direction has been a huge help over the past few months, especially.
Awesome. Well, I hope I can ship some more stuff with you and have some more fun, and we'll take it from there. But it is the end of our session. Do you have any final or last words for the audience other than Comtrya?
Feel free to drop by, check it out, drop an issue. I do monitor it, and I do try to get back to people within a day or two. So if you have any questions, there's also the Rawkode Academy chat, and there's also the Discord. Pop in there and feel free to ask me any questions or make any suggestions.
Yeah, go try Comtrya and then let us know where it fails you, and we will fix it. So, thank you. All right, until next time, we'll see y'all soon. Have a good day.
Thanks for tuning in. We hope you learned a lot. I did. Coding questions, comments, or a chat. The Rawkode Academy community is where it's at. Hit subscribe so you won't miss a beat. More live streams, tutorials, can't be beat. Keep coding, keep learning. It's the Rawkode way. We'll catch you next time. Have an awesome day. Subscribe so you won't miss a beat.